Exploratory online seminar number 40, Introduction to Various Filter Types. And filter is almost like kind of, super basic thing, right? So any tools, any type of thing you do, I mean, even Excel, like the filter is always there. So sounds like nothing so special, but when you start thinking about it, there's many ways to do the filtering that data. And especially in exploratory, there are some sort of like, different type of the filters in exploratory. And we get this question from customers or users that seems to be kind of confused. So I want to clarify all those filter types in exploratory. Some of the filter might not seems to be filter at the first sight, but actually does the same kind of jobs. So I want to lay out all the filter types of the task in exploratory or features in exploratory, and then with a demo, I want to kind of explain one by one. And then these are the filter types. Filter topics. So starting from the filter basics and all the way through, maybe like summarize function and parameters, and also some of the things like a limit value or highlight. Those are the ones that don't seem like a filter, but actually do very similar jobs what you'd expect with filter. So let's start with the filter basics, and this is just really the basic things. A filter is to keep only the rows that match with a given condition. Okay, so this is a sort of like a definition of the filter in this seminar or in this in the exploratory. Okay, so let's say like if you want to keep only the 2020 data, then like you create a condition to match with the year 2020, and then you get the result that contains only 2020. And the same thing, for example, if you had a country column and then you want to create a filter to keep only Japan data, or maybe like numerical data, like you want to say like greater than, sales amount is, let's say like $1,000, and then you want to get the data that matches with that condition. And then these are the example, the very simple filtering, and then also just one condition, but you can create multiple conditions, combining like, let's say country and sales and the year and so on. So that's really what the filter does. And then in exploratory, there's main things are these three types, like step filter, chart filter, and the table view filter. So the step filter is basically the filter that you think and you use in exploratory. So let's say that you have the this is like a sales data that I usually use in these seminars. Each row represents each order for a given product from a given customer. And there's one column called order date that looks like the date period is from 2017 to 2020. And then let's say that we want to keep only the 2020 data. I'm going to just quickly in the exploratory to do it. So here's the data I imported, and it's 13,000 rows, about 13,000. And then each row is each order, right? Okay. And then like I want to actually filter to keep only 2020 data. So from the column header menu, select the filter, and then equal to, and then I'm going to select 2020, so like I want to select the year, and I have a bunch of different various different options, but I'm going to use it as year so that I can just simply type 2020. Okay, and after this operation, when I go check this order date column, I can see only the data is in 2020, January 1st to December 31st, and that's what I have expected. Okay, and then. So that's the one thing though is here, like, so whenever like you do the filter from the column header menu, and then that will create the step at the right hand side, and that's the step I was talking about. Precisely we call it the data wrangling step, but whatever the step is going to be added at the right hand side is to record what you have done in terms of like transforming the cleaning or data wrangling the data. Okay, so now then let's move on to the next one, the chart filter. Okay, so let's create a chart from here. I'm gonna just click on this chart button. And then like this is the data of like number of rows, and that means like a number of orders by month. And I want to change that to, let's say, like a sales. Select the sales, and then I'm going to keep that the summarize function as a sum total. And then now like I'm looking at basically the sales by months. And then let me change this chart type to line chart. And then that's easier kind of to see the time for the time series data. And then let's add the color. I'm going to just select maybe like a product category. I think there's something like that. Okay, cool. So like I have 3 product categories, and then like looking at the sales trend by months. And then notice though, this data is only for 2020. So 2020 January to 2020 December. And that's because this data is pointing to the step 2 by this pin button. So if I move this pin button to this before the filter step, and then like I see all the data from the starting from 2017 January. But if I move the pin button back to the filtered step, and then now like I'm looking at only 2020 data. And that's fine for now. And then now I want to, let's say like I want to see this data is basically 2020, but also all the data, meaning if I go to the summary view, let's say here, the market, I have like Asia Pacific, Europe, and Latin America, and USCM, meaning US and Canada, so North America. But let's say if I want to see only the North America data here, the 2 ways to do it, like one is to go here and create a filter from the column header menu. But again, this is going to create a step. That means it's going to create a step, third step. But I actually don't want to do it because I don't want to. I want to keep using this data for like some other analysis. I want to see the North America data only for this chart, and that's where like you want to use this thing called chart filter. So click on this filter button inside the chart, and then select the market this time. And I'm going to just go with equal to because I want to select only one market. In this case, a USCA, again, US and Canada, so like North America. And then I click on run button. So now I'm looking at this data for the USCA or North America data of the 2020. Okay. And then now let's say like I want to actually see the Europe data, and I want to see like Europe and the USCA, and it's kind of a different way and in the different charts. And then what I can do is like I can just do copy the chart by selecting duplicate, and this is for, let's say, Europe or something. And then like all I need to do is go to the chart filter and change the value to Europe. And then now like I'm looking at the Europe sales trend for of the 2020. So now like I have 2 charts, like one is North America, one for Europe. And then, I can put those 2 charts in a dashboard and compare by, along together and so on. But here again, like this data is still pointing to 2020. If I want to change to the whole data, I can just move the pin button. Then now like I'm looking at the Europe data, but also starting from January to 17. Okay, so this one, sometimes some people get confused. So what I was basically doing was the right-hand side was the data import, create calculation, filter year 2020. In the demo, I didn't create a calculation, but I just assumed that like we had. Then like we have, so right-hand side, the data wrangling step. In Exploratory, each step has its own data or snapshot of the data. And then you can create the chart from any step. And then now I created 2 charts from the last step called filter year 2020. So think about it, this illustration like has 3 charts, but 3 charts kind of coming from the last step. Okay, so now what I actually did was I created a chart filter and then create one for furniture, one for office supply in this slide, but in the demo, I use a market column. So like I created North America and Europe. Okay, so that, and then right hand side, so like a filter on the right hand side, that's a step filter. Filter inside the chart is a chart filter, and then this is very convenient when you think about it. So, you don't have to influence the main sort of like a data wrangling operation side, or the main data wrangling flow, but you want to actually do some kind of temporary or ad hoc way of creating a filter. This is we're talking about only for the chart right now, but this of course can be used for the analytics as well. Let's say like you create linear regression under the analytics view, then you can create the filter there as well. Okay, the next one is a table view filter. This one has been added relatively recently, so it's pretty cool stuff. This one too, like I'm gonna just quickly do the demo. So if I go to the table view, sometimes this happens a lot, especially when you're working on the data wrangling or like, maybe like, working on some of the text data, so on. And then like after you do certain operation, like you want to quickly find if those data are, kind of sort of like a transformed the way you expected, or sometimes you're looking for the NA data, and then what are those NA data, so on. Then you can create this filter, this is a table view filter inside a table view. It works very much like the chart filter, meaning this filter works only in this view, but it's not going to add another filter step at the right hand side. So if I go here, click on that filter button, and then let's say we have like a product name, and there is some like a smartphone related data here. And I want to actually create, let's say here, like a smartphone. So like I want to keep only the rows whose product name contains this smartphone. So like I'm going to just select the product name, and then instead of equal to, like I just want to use just partial matching. So contains, and then smartphone. And I'm going to click on the ignore case. That means even if it's like a PHONE like form in the lowercase, or maybe like a mixed case, still try to match it. So if I click on run button, and then these are the rows that satisfy the condition that I created. So those are like 132 rows out of 4,453 rows. And then these are the information that I can take a look. And then like I can see like, oh, okay, so these are the ones looks, doing okay, or like I have like 132, maybe like I'm gonna change smartphone to like a mobile, to start thinking about like my strategy on like sort of data wrangling or data cleanup in this case. Okay, so I'm gonna just click on delete button. If you don't want to delete, you want to just keep it sort of like preserve it, but not you want to see the whole entire data once, then you can click on this like a disable condition. If you click on this, basically you see as if like there's no filter. But by clicking on enable condition, then you can bring that back as well. In this case, I don't really need it, so I'm gonna just click delete and delete completely. Okay, cool. So the next topic is so those are by the way, those are the three sort of like main filter types that you would use often. And the next time, next topic is a filter operator types. So what is operator types? So before getting there, there are four sort of like most commonly used data types: numeric, character, logical, date, and Posix CD. Um, Data type is something that you can see under the column name in a summary view or table view. And then when you go select the filter from the column header menu, you see the sub menu. And this sub menu is pretty much the same, but based on the data type, you see slight differences there. For example, when you have the numeric column, like you see less than, or greater than, or between, and also like keep outliers or remove outlier values, that type of operators. If you select the character columns, then you see starts with or contains like we have just seen, or keep only stop word, and then that type of the menu. And then if the column is logical data type is for it can have only true or false. And this is very useful actually. When you have that data that you import automatically becomes logical, but sometimes you might have like 1, 0 value, and you can convert it to 1 equal true and 0 being false. And by doing so, especially in a context of like statistical analysis by using logistic regression or something like that, then you actually have to have the data in this format. Even like you just want to do a data visualization, by converting to the logical, you can do a lot of things, because by having the true false value, then you can start doing some of the calculations such as percent of true and so on. But nonetheless, in the filter context, you will see this like is true or is false. So like you can keep only the true rows or false rows and so on. Okay. And then the last one, but not least, is a date and Posix CT columns. Okay, and then data and Posix CT, the difference is both of them basically something to do with the date and time information. However, the data type column doesn't include the time information, only the date. When you have the time information, then the column, typically when you import, it will be registered as Posix CT. The last two letters, CT, stands for calendar time. So the time is the reason this column became Posix CT. So then when you have this, then like you select a filter, and then like you see like a submenu has a lot of different options. Because when you create a filter, I've already done that in the demo, but sometimes you want to create a condition like equal to 2020, or you might want to create a condition like equal to 2020 September, or 2020 September 15th. So the date and time information, you want to sort of like set how you want to set the value of the date column, right? So that's why like you see a lot of variations. And then inside the filter dialog, and you see those variations under how to set value. And then there are a lot of different ways of setting this. And then, so those are basic things, but these are called absolute date filter. Equal to, isn't, earlier than, and all that. So what absolute date value? Well, this is basically the basic of the filter. So nothing special about it. Like when you think about creating a filter for date and time columns, that's what you usually think about. So let's say like year, hey, give me a data for greater than 2016 or 2017 data, or between 2017 and 2018 data, and so on. Here, notice that like I'm setting the 2016 or 17 or whatever the particular value I'm setting here. Now, opposite to the absolute is called relative date. And relative date is basically try to think about the context of the, for example, today, right? So if we, today, you might want to say like, hey, give me the previous year data, or this year data, or last 3 years data, or year to date data, and so on. So something like, it really depends when is actually today. So, if I create the last 2 years of data, and if I create that today, then starting from today and go all the way back to last 2 years, right? So, but if I create a filter in the next month, and then you want that filter to be starting from that next year, next month, whatever the date that would be. Let's say like today's, I think today's is what date is today? Today's still March. Okay, so March 31st. So maybe next month, like you happen to be like April 30th or something, and then like going all the way back, the 2 years, but going back from the whatever the day, in this case April 30th or something. Okay, so you can actually select this relative date option under the filter, and then inside, and then you can select, for example, last, in this case, I set the date type as a month. So therefore, like I can select like last n months, or next month or this month and so on. Next one though is the last n months bracket exclude this month, and this type of the filter is actually pretty convenient. What I usually have is like I'm monitoring, let's say like our website, page access views or something. And then if I'm basically doing this analysis on the sort of 5th of this month, let's say March 5th or something, then if I do like last n months, then let's say last 3 months, and then problem is this month's data has only 5 days compared to the last month already had like 30 days. Then like when you draw the sort of like line chart, always the last month goes drop down if you sort of aggregate the total of the page view or something like that, because this month had only 5 days. And in this case, you want to select this like exclude this month, then you can then the condition will be last 3 months, meaning like starting from the last month and then the previous 3 months. So that is a really convenient option. But nonetheless, so the last month or next month or this month is always when you open this report or chart or whatever, start using that today's date, or if it's a time column, that this particular time. Okay. Now here, so let's say like I'm creating last n months 12 in the filter dialog. That means this is for like last 12 months data. Okay, and if I open this, if I run this next month, and then that will give me a different set of data, because it's really sensitive to, when you run this particular filter. Okay. So the next topic is a filter with summarize function. And this one is really actually a convenient one. So let's say that we have a sales column, and then the mean is 756. So the average sales is $756, 756.9. And then let's say like I want to create a filter to keep only the orders that whose sales are greater than mean value, in this case $756, right? And then it's kind of simple to create this kind of filter. All I need to do is just create a filter and set operator for as greater than, and set the value 756, because I knew that average value is $756. The problem though, when I re-import the data by clicking on that re-import button or refresh button, that means, let's say like I'm accessing a database or even this local file, and the local file has already added the new data, like next month's data or something. I mean, like it's kind of weird, next month's data, but let's say like if I open this next month, and then if I click on the refresh button, new data will be added, right? And then the mean value might be different, might be, like not like $756 anymore. Then this filter operation still basically sort of like hard coding sales greater than 756, and it doesn't really make sense by that time. So that then in that case, I have to open the filter condition, and then like I have to type like a new mean value or average value, and obviously like nobody wants to do that. So that's where you want to use this summarize function. So you click on the summarize function, then you will be given a list of the summarize function to choose from. And the summarize function is to basically the summarize value, right? So like let's say mean is an average function. Then you use the summarize function the mean, then you get the average sales, right? So then you want to use that value as part of the condition. Then your condition will be always sort of reflecting the latest data. Okay. To do, you can actually use this one obviously for numeric and the date and Posix CD, because those are the one that it matters for the you want to use the summarize function. And then In this case, I'm going to select the mean and then the column to summarize the sales. That means, as you see the syntax area at the very bottom of the filter dialog, and then it's basically doing the right-hand side, the mean bracket sales. That means calculating the mean of the sales. And then the sales is greater than. So this is a sort of summarized filter. Is very powerful. Um, And then another scenario, this happened to me personally often, is this is where like you want to use a summarize function, is that I want to keep only the latest data. This happens a lot. Like you just think of it, like for example, you get the data from I don't know, the World Bank or even like your government, and then you get the population data, right? And then for let's say like United States had 50 states, and I want to get the population data for 50 states. The problem is like the population change every year, so they give me all the years. Let's say like from like 1970 to 2020 or something. And then I want to use the latest data to combine with another data set. Then what I want to do is just give me whatever the last date of the data. The problem is if all the 50 states had the 2020 data, then that's fine. Then like I can use 2020 as sort of kind of hard coding it. But problem is some states might not have the 2020, and in that case, maybe the 2019 or some of the state might have 2018 and stop there or something. Then I want to actually make sure that latest meaning for each state. Each state has a different latest. So that's the kind of case. It's very valuable to use that summarize function. Like here's how you can do. This demo particular scenario is I have this order date, and it looks like 2020 December 31st is the last date. Then like I want to keep only the latest data, and the latest meaning in this case 2020 December. And then that case, I can create a filter condition and then set like operator equal to, and how to set values. There's a year and a month option. Then I can type the 2020-12. And this will give me that last month's information. But again, I don't want to hard code it, because if I open this like next month or 6 months later, it keeps giving me the 2020 December data. But I don't want that. Like I want to always focus on the last date of that particular data set. Then I can select the summarize function. And then I want to use max of the order date. That means max of the value of the order date is always the latest, right? So then max, and then like how to set values year months. That means that max month of the this data set. Then whenever like I open this, I always guarantee to see the latest part of that data. Okay, so that's a summarize function, and then that's very powerful. And let's go to the next one and filter with parameter. And if parameter, I have done the seminar last week, so you might be already familiar with, but otherwise I'm going to just quickly introduce for this one. In Exploratory, you can create, the data, chart, dashboard, whatever, and then you can publish to Exploratory server, and then you can invite other people to look at the data, download the data, and so on. And then the problem is usually each person has a different requirements. Let's say like one person wants to see like only the Europe data, another person wants to see Asia data, and so on. And then you want to create, and then you can, you don't want to create European data for one person, African data for another person, and so on. Then you can actually use a parameter. So you can parameterize the data or chart or dashboard or whatever. Then, each person can change the filter condition dynamically. And that's the parameter with filter with parameter. So in this case, I have this filter that market equal USCA. I have hard coded, but obviously like other people want a different market data. So I can create this, I can parameterize this filter. right? And then select on the parameter, and then you can create a parameter. And I'm going to just actually quickly do this demo dynamically. So here I have 2020, and then instead of creating the market data, market filter, I can create a market filter as well. But because I have the year filter already, I'm going to actually parameterize this one. So click on the parameter checkbox, and then I'm going to create a new parameter, and then create a new, and then here, let's call it like just year. And then display name is as is, so I don't worry about that. And then this is the numeric value. And then text input, or like I'm going to use a slider. And the mean value is, let's say this one is a 2016 to 2020 or something. And the default value, I'm going to just select the 2020. And the step size just one year incremental. And then save it and close it. And then here I can select this year parameter. And if I click on run button, and then the result doesn't change, because this one right here, I have the filter, and this at mark bracket year, that's the parameter part. This value, the default is a 2020, so it basically it's creating the exact same condition. But I can click on this parameter button at the right hand side top. Now I see the slider, and I can change that to, let's say, like 2019. And then now, like I should be seeing, let's check summary view. I should be seeing that only the 2019 data. And this is a year, but you know, as imagine, like you can create the filter for the character data type columns, or numeric data type columns, and so on. And another thing though, here in the filter, I actually, click on the parameter pane, and then go to the configuration UI, and I hard code it, right? This is like 2016 to 2020. But what if, like, if I start getting the 2021 data, then this 2020 is not really, you know, what do you call it? It's relevant, right? So like I want to make this dynamic, and then in that case, you can use this get value from data frame, and then you can always create, for example, like select the data frame that I'm working on right now, and then I'm going to select the step before I do the filter. And then like a value column is like, you know what? I realize that there's no year column. All the date is a date column. So I can create that. What I should do is I'm going to just go back to that enter value for now, and I'm going to just get out of this. I'm going to save it, and then I can create the year column, for example, from the extract and year. And this one, order date year, this column will have all the years. Let's say, so here's the 2020. If I go to the source step, that right first step, then I'm gonna just move this one to right before the filter step here. Okay, so this column has a 2017, 18, 19, and 2020. And I want to actually use these values as a source of the parameter. And that's what I wanted to do. And then I can go to here and filter step. I can go to the parameter pane and open the parameter configuration UI. And then here, I'm going to change that to this parameter drop down to be more dynamic. So here I should be seeing, oops, I got to select the correct step. And then I should be seeing the year column. And then the column seems like 2017 to 2020. So like min and max value already been decided based on the data. Default value, I want to select the 2020. And other places, I'm going to just keep as by default and save it. And then here, basically the same thing we are looking at right now, because when I open the parameter 2017, 2020, and these values are coming from this step 2. Okay, so then step 2, 2017 to 2020. So you can create the filter based on the dynamic values or based on the data frame value, or you can actually type in, or static values. Either way, but the point here is you can parameterize the filter. Then it could be beneficial for you because you can actually dynamically change the parameter while you're working on, let's say, like a chart or maybe like even a dashboard or something. And then all you need to do is just open this parameter pane. Oops, here. And then you can create, see the parameter change. Sorry, you can change the parameter values while you're working on, the chart or analytics and so on. But more beneficial when you publish this and then share that with other people. Okay, so that is the parameter filter with a parameter, and okay, and you might want to check that online seminar number 39. I did that last week. For more details, you can do a lot of things with the parameter, and you can find from our website. And then there's a Learn menu under that. Like you'll see how to bracket tutorials, or you can go to the online seminar. Either way, but when you go to how to tutorials and then type parameter and search it, and then you can find not only the seminar, but also other parameter related information as well. Okay, so the next one, the chart limit values. And this one is very convenient, but it's kind of tricky if you first time you are exposed to this. So here I have visualized the total sales by country with a bar chart, right? And then there are tons of countries. I think like 180 countries or something like that, and I can't even see it. And like most of the countries have a very small amount of the sales values, and then, so I'm not necessarily interested in those countries with small amount of the sales, and I want to focus on sort of like countries with big sales, right? And then how can I do that? And there's a couple ways to do it. Number one, maybe like, give me the countries only the countries with sales greater than $100,000 or something. Then I'm gonna zoom into those, right? And then in that case, I can create, it's like the first thing like you might think it's like, oh, hey, here's a filter button. So create a filter and select the sales. But here is a problem because this filter is against the data before the chart summarize. What that mean? So chart generation, chart creation process goes like this. You have the original data. I mean, that's coming from the right-hand side step, right? And then the chart basically does the summarization of the data, by the x-axis column, and if you have the color, then by using the color column. And then you aggregate the value of the y-axis column, in this case, the total sales. And then so basically, in this case, by country of some total sales. So summarize data on the right-hand side. So that's what happened. The problem is if you create a chart filter, the chart filter try to do the filter at the left-hand side original data. But here what we're talking is we want to filter based on the summarized data because we want to see greater than $100,000 for the total sales, right? So that's basically right-hand side. We want to do the filter on summarized data. That's what we want to do. And that's where the limit feature comes in. Okay, so that's the difference between the filter and the limit. Filter, chart filter, or even a step filter is always against the raw data or original data before the chart summarizes. If you want to do the filter on the top of the data that is presented in the chart as a summarized format, then you want to use this limit. Okay, so let's do this in a demo. Let me just create new chart, and I'm going to create a bar chart and by the country, and then I'm going to assign the sales and the sales total, and then I'm going to just sort it, And then here, okay, that's looks good. And I'm gonna just move this pin button to before the filter step so that I can see all the data, all years of the data. Okay, so again, I wanna do the only the countries greater than $100,000 or $500,000. And then instead of creating using a chart filter, I'm gonna go to the y-axis. There's a limit, not y-axis, x-axis. And then under that, the type, I have a few options. I'm going to use a condition this time. And here, based on current Y column is kind of convenient because, like right now, the current Y column is a sales total. If I change to sales average, or if I change that to like maybe like a sales compensation on a different column, it's always using sort of current Y column is dynamically changed. But if you want to stick with one particular column, let's say like, you know what, like I just want to use this marketing column or something like that, then you can actually use, or if you want to use the sales, instead of sum function, you want to use a mean function, you can select that as well. I'm gonna go with current Y column for now. The operators, I'm going to basically, this is the same thing. I'm creating a condition and then greater than, and then 100,000 and click apply. And then this is now like I'm seeing only the countries with sales greater than $1,000. Okay, so that's cool. But sometimes instead of setting the particular value like $100,000 or $70,000, you might want to just limit only for the top 10 or top 20, top 50 countries. And you can actually do that as well. Just click on this green button, and then, or you can go from that limit either way. Then instead of using the condition, you can set top. And then like a number of result, let's say like top 20. And again, the based on is like a, like a current Y column, meaning in this case, a sales total. But if you want to specify the particular way of aggregate or measure, then you can change that as well. I'm going to go with this, and then I click on the apply button. And then these are like kind of similar result, but this is a top 20. So even if like, some countries around here is not, don't have like $100,000, but now it's picked up because now condition is a top 20. Okay. So that's the limit features. So that's pretty much but the typical way of when you think about filter. But there are two more things here. So that's the highlight. So we want to know how Japan is. Basically, like I want to know the Japan, right? And when I have the chart, and then like I want to see that Japan. What I mean by is here, and then here I know that Japan is here because like I have only 20 bars anyway, so it's not that hard to find it. But let's imagine like if you have a 50 or something like that, like hey, where is the United States? Where is Spain, and so on. And in that case, I can use the highlight features to create something like this. And then, so this is sort of like not necessarily the filtering, but we call it highlighting. But also, like you want to see in this case Japan in the context of all the other countries. Compare against other countries. So, in order to do it, here I'm gonna assign the color. First, you want to assign the country. In this case, country to the color. Then you can select which country to highlight. Okay. And then the default, when you assign a column with more than 20 unique values, and it will apply this like other group setting things. And this is there because when you have like 100 or 200, let's say the countries or something, and you're going to have 100 or 200 colors, and that will make this chart generation very slow. So make top 20. In this case, the top 20 meaning the frequency, so like a number of rows. And then so keep the only top 20 and the other countries to be under the other group. But this case, we don't really need it because we already have 20 countries anyway. So I'm going to change that to none. And then from the same menu under the color, and there's a highlight menu. And I'm going to use this highlight color and then enable the highlight. and then select Japan. And I'm going to keep using default color red, and then click on apply. Now, like I see that Japan has been highlighted here. I can add more, other color, other country as well. Let's say like I want to see, hey, where the Brazil, for example, and a different color, and apply. And then basically, so this is, instead of filtering just Brazil and Japan, like I want to keep other countries here, but as if they are not there. So, but in this way, like I can compare, like, their positions compared to other countries. And then like I can change that to, for example, it's limit, let's say like now I want to change to like 50 countries, and then like where the Japan and Brazil is, and so on. Okay. So that's the chart highlight. It's slightly different from filter, but in a way, like you can think of it like it's you doing a similar thing, especially when you're kind of investigating the data. And then last thing is, so we have seen the table view filter, right? And the table view filter works only within the table view. And this, you might ask, hey, can we do the same thing in the summary view? The answer is yes, but slightly different way of like, what you have thought, what you might have thought, which is basically here, again, using the highlight feature. Okay, so what that means, I'm gonna go do the demo here and go back to the summary view, right? And then like, hey, let's, what, like maybe I want to just filter only the United States. And I want to see like, how the United States orders are, like a sales are, or, maybe like, I don't know, here's a return column. So that this is like a return order. So like, if the United States has how many return items, so what's that, compared to not return item, and so on. And then you can click on this highlight, the left-hand side top. And then now like I'm in the highlight mode. And then somehow it's already been selected because maybe like previously like I selected. But usually this is empty when you first time use it. And then like you want to select the column. In this case, conveniently, the country has already been selected. And the country called United States, and that's fine. And then I'm gonna click on run button. And then now United States data I'm looking at here. And then let's say, obviously the region, I have 4 regions, like Western, Eastern, Central, Southern US. And then now the state is the top is California, and so on. Okay. And so it's sort of like when you focus on just the blue, then basically that's what you get when you filter only the United States data. But it is still showing the gray color for other countries, other countries' data. So you can sort of compare, like, for example, let's say here, the return, like for example, like false and not return items, the total is here 12,428. Out of that, the 2,035 are not returned, but here, how about the true? So in total, the 627 items are returned. Out of that, like 181 are returned in the US orders. This is kind of hard to see actually, like because you true number is super small compared to false, and that's where like you want to use this ratio bottom. And then now this one is all about it makes every bar to be 100%, and then that way return I can see 28% of the return item are from United States, and that's pretty high compared to even a false like United States item. United States doesn't occupy so much, but true, there are a lot of items from the United States and so on. And then, other area as well, for example, sales, like higher sales value, sales amounts are seems like coming from the United States and so on. So this is the United States of the country, but obviously you can create different types of conditions as well. Let's say you can select, for example, sales and it is greater than, let's say, maybe like $1,000, and then where those orders are coming from. So these are a high number of the orders from basically greater than 1,000. And then those are coming from like Eastern Asia, South Asia, Central Africa. Seems like there are a lot of orders from Asia Pacific tend to be the higher sales amount. Okay. So that's a slightly like unusual way of filtering, but basically it does do the same thing what you expect with the filtering, except it's slightly different way of showing that data. Okay, so that's it for today.